Nobody expected it. Not the attorneys, not the committee members, not even the journalists who had been covering this story for months. Nobody expected Ted Lieu to walk into that hearing room with a wire transfer receipt showing exactly how Stephen Miller and his associate planned to split $500,000. But he did, and when Lieu asked Miller to explain the document, Miller sat in complete silence for 367 seconds, 6 minutes and 7 seconds. Not because he did not understand the question, because any answer would confirm what the document already proved. The hearing room that Wednesday morning looked routine at first. Standard oversight session. Department of Homeland Security budget review. Lieu arrived early, sat quietly, had a single brown envelope on the table in front of him, unmarked, sealed. Miller arrived with his usual setup. 3 attorneys, 2 aides, prepared talking points about border security funding and operational costs. He thought this would be another policy debate. He had no idea what was inside that envelope. The first 34 minutes were exactly what Miller expected. Questions about detention facility budgets, contract oversight procedures, procurement protocols. Miller gave standard answers, looked comfortable, almost relaxed. Then Lieu took the microphone. Mr. Miller. Lieu's voice was calm, even, like someone about to ask a simple procedural question. I want to talk about a wire transfer, a specific wire transfer that occurred on March 23rd of this year. He opened the brown envelope, pulled out a single document. This is a bank wire transfer receipt obtained through congressional subpoena of financial records. The transfer originated from an account registered to a company called Border Solutions Group, LLC. Amount transferred, $500,000. Destination, an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. He set it down. The transfer occurred 4 days after your office signed a $12 million contract with Border Solutions Group for what the contract calls Advanced Border Monitoring Technology. Miller leaned forward slightly. Congressman, I am not personally involved in the financial operations of government contractors. Wire transfers between private entities and their banking arrangements are not. You are right. Lieu nodded. Wire transfers between private entities are not your concern. But this one is different, because of what is written in the memo field of this transfer. He held up the receipt, turned it toward the cameras. In the memo field, clearly visible to everyone watching. 4 words. Project split 50-50. The room went completely still. Not the polite quiet of people waiting for the next question. The absolute silence of people who just realized something enormous just happened. Think about what those 4 words do in a legal context. A memo field on a wire transfer is not private communication. It is a banking record. It is documentation that travels with the money, gets stored by the receiving institution, and is producible under subpoena. Whoever typed those 4 words into that memo field either did not understand that or did not care. Either answer is significant. Either answer tells you something about how confident the people involved were that nobody would ever look. Lieu set the receipt back down. Project split 50-50. That is what someone typed into the memo field of a $500,000 wire transfer 4 days after your office approved a $12 million government contract. Miller's face did not change expression, but his left hand moved to his water glass, picked it up, held it for 3 seconds without drinking, set it back down. Congressman, I cannot speak to the internal accounting practices of private contractors or the notations they make. I am not asking about internal accounting. Lieu's voice was still calm, still even. I am asking about 4 specific words. Project split 50-50. Do you know what project that refers to? Silence. 10 seconds. 15 seconds. Miller's attorney leaned over, whispered something. Miller shook his head slightly. Mr. Miller, do you know what project is being referenced? More silence. Lieu continued without waiting. Because I think I know what project it refers to. He pulled out another document. This is the contract between DHS and Border Solutions Group signed by your office on March 19th. The contract is for $12 million over 2 years for advanced monitoring systems deployment. He set it down next to the wire transfer receipt. March 19th, contract signed. March 23rd, wire transfer for $500,000 with memo field saying project split 50-50. That is 4 days apart. Then a third document. This is the corporate registration for Border Solutions Group, LLC, filed in Delaware 6 months ago. The company has 2 listed officers. He read the first name, a technology consultant with no prior government contracting experience. He read the second name, a private equity executive who, according to financial disclosure records, has a business partnership with someone very familiar to this committee. He paused. Your brother-in-law. The room erupted, not gradually, instantly. Journalists on their feet, camera operators scrambling, Committee members leaning into microphones, the chairman banging his gavel. Miller did not move, did not speak. His face had gone pale. That particular shade that comes when something you thought was hidden suddenly gets discussed on national television. Lieu waited for the room to settle, then continued. So let me make sure I understand the timeline. 6 months ago, a company is created. One of its officers has a business partnership with your brother-in-law. March 19th, your office signs a $12 million contract with that company. March 23rd, that company wires $500,000 to an offshore account with a memo saying project split 50-50. He looked directly at Miller. I'm going to ask you a very simple question. What does 50-50 mean? The silence that followed was absolute. Not the silence of someone thinking about an answer. The silence of someone calculating every possible response and realizing they are all bad. 30 seconds? 60 seconds? 90 seconds. Mr. Miller, this is a simple question. What does project split 50-50 mean? Miller's voice, when it finally came, was quiet, strained. Congressman, I would need to review the full context of that transaction, the parties involved, and the legal basis for congressional inquiry into private commercial. I did not ask for a legal analysis. I asked what 50-50 means. Does it mean a 50% split of something? Yes or no? Miller looked at his attorney. His attorney was writing frantically on a legal pad, not looking up. Miller looked at his hands. On advice of counsel, I declined to answer that question at this time. The room exploded again. Because everyone understood what just happened. Miller invoked his right not to answer a question about whether 50-50 means a 50% split. Lieu did not raise his voice, just sat there looking at Miller. You declined to answer what 50-50 means. Then one final document. This is your personal financial disclosure filed in February. It shows a new asset listed as limited partnership interest. The amount listed is between $250,000 and $500,000. He looked up. So let me put this together. March 19th, $12 million government contract approved by your office. March 23rd, $500,000 wire transfer with memo project split 50-50. 1 month later, your brother-in-law discloses a $500,000 investment. 2 weeks after that, you disclose a $250,000 to $500,000 partnership interest. He paused. 50-50. Half of $500,000 is $250,000. Is that a coincidence, Mr. Miller? The silence that followed was the longest of the entire hearing. Not 60 seconds, not 90 seconds. 367 seconds, 6 minutes and 7 seconds. Multiple people timed it. Congressional staff, legal analysts, journalists, all of them counting. 367 seconds where Miller could have said this is wrong, could have said there is no connection, could have said the timing is coincidental, could have explained that his partnership interest came from a completely different source. He said nothing, not one word. Face pale, hands gripping the table, attorneys writing frantically, and Ted Lieu just sat there, arms crossed, watching, not pressing, not interrupting, just letting the silence speak for itself, because 367 seconds of silence in response to a direct question about a 50-50 split of $500,000 is not a denial, it is a confirmation, and that is the specific legal weight of silence in a congressional hearing. A witness who does not know the answer says, I do not know. A witness who cannot recall says, I cannot recall. A witness who has a different explanation offers it. Silence. Sustained, deliberate, 6 minutes of it, is what happens when every possible answer is worse than saying nothing, when the truth is the most dangerous option available, and when the person in the chair has calculated correctly that silence cannot be used against them the way a direct lie can. When the chairman finally called for a recess, Miller stood immediately. His attorneys surrounded him. They moved toward the exit, cameras following, reporters shouting. Miller said nothing, walked straight out, got into a car, left. Because what could he say? The wire transfer existed. The memo field said project split 50-50. The company was connected to his brother-in-law. The timing matched. His brother-in-law disclosed $500,000. He disclosed $250,000, exactly half. And when asked if that was a coincidence, he sat silent for 367 seconds. Lieu walked into that hearing with one envelope, one wire transfer receipt, and 4 words in a memo field. Project split 50-50. Those 4 words just exposed what might be the largest kickback scheme in modern government contracting history.